Here is the comparison that you've all been waiting for. We are going to do an up-close, intimate comparison between the Gen 3 Combat Troodon and the Gen 2 Combat Troodon right here. A lot of cool differences. I've spent some time. I wanted to keep some of this exciting for me so that I didn't know everything. But I definitely looked these over and I pointed out some things to make sure I get them covered in terms of the differences. And I think what we're going to do is start really high level, like the big stuff that they've changed. And then we'll dive into like weights and measurements and some smaller details. Sound like a plan? I think that sounds like a plan. So first off, let's start with the tip. Yeah. Let's start with the blade. Steel. I'm going to say they're the same. M390, M390 MK. The new ones are using the proprietary Bowler blend for Microtech, but it's M390, so nothing's really changed there. Blade finish, same, relatively speaking. Blade profile, same. These are very similar in blades. This one's serrated, this one's not, but you can get these in any sort of blade kind of shapes. For the most part, the blades are the thing that's changed the least. Even those lightning holes in the fuller are very much the same. Blade thickness is the same. I have measured them. Blade length is different. The new Combat Troodon, let's see, if I can get this right angle here, is longer, if you can see that. So I've got the top of the handles lined up, and you can see that the new Combat Troodon is longer. But if you look at the handles, they're the same. Let's see, maybe this is a better way to do it. Butt to butt. And you get more blade length. So they were able to cram more blade into the handle on this newest generation, which is just really cool, really, really awesome. As we move down to the handle, both are 6061 aluminum. The claw logo, this is light laser etched. And this is done after the anodizing. So it's raw aluminum in there, kind of white colored. Whereas on the Gen 3, this is a deep engraving, deep etching. As you can see the texture in there. And it's done before the anodizing so that it's more of a ghost etch and not all white, right? So a little bit more subdued. The screws, you can see this uses proprietary 3-wing screws. You need a special tool. This one uses Torx screws. So easier to disassemble. Some people like it, some people don't. Overall handle is completely different. You've got different chamfering, different design, different grip pattern. Everything else is kind of the same though on the handle other than the visuals. It appears to be thinner across the board. Now I haven't measured yet, we're going to measure together, but it appears to be thinner on the new Combat Troodon, which is pretty awesome. And yet the button is wider, which makes it easier to disengage. You can also see that the button track is longer on the Gen 3, and it has this pattern inside there for debris to catch as you slide it up and down. On the profile view of the button, it comes up at a slightly more steep angle. Kind of reminds me of the OG Scarabs, the QD Scarabs. Not a huge difference, but you can see how it kind of ramps up a little bit more. It's a little thinner on top compared to the Gen 2. Coming around back, pocket clip is completely different. This is a reversible titanium 3D milled pocket clip with a silicone carbide ball in there, the beg ball. This is just a bent metal clip. Now the only negative here, you're getting better quality materials. I think it looks sexy as hell. But you're not getting as deep a carry. So you do have some knife that'll be sticking out here compared to the original Combat Troodon, which is super deep carry. However, you have this giant glass breaker sticking out. So that almost equals out so that really, if you think about it that way, the same amount of knife is sticking out. This one has a much longer handle profile though. If you go glass breaker to glass breaker, it almost equals same length with this one having a longer blade, if that makes any sense. If that maths Mathis is up. This has a integral glass breaker, so very minor, very subdued, very comfortable. You can put your thumb right on the back here if you got it in reverse grip. Not uncomfortable at all. You can barely feel that ball, and it's not obtrusive. Whereas the Gen 2, you know, it's quite, not sharp, but, you know, you can tell. You can tell what that is. Both are reversible. This one, you just remove this nut here and then switch it around. You're good to go. This one, same thing. Remove this nut, flip this pocket clip around, and you are good to go. Internally is where the biggest, I would say the biggest change is. This one has a two-spring drive system that is super smooth, fires really hard, and is really easy to disengage. One of the complaints with the old school Combat Troodons is how difficult they can be to manipulate. Now, I've got Microtech thumbs, I've got OTF thumbs, so mine are super strong, but a lot of people cannot actuate this switch, especially if they haven't handled one before, and especially in the closing position. That one seems to be the hardest. Like I said, my thumbs are all toughened up, so I don't have that problem. So it's a lot easier to move this switch on the new version, and it just feels so much better. It just got this really smooth kind of feeling to it, and then you feel that blade rocket out. I really, really like this new action. Super happy they went with it. I want to open this up and kind of peek under the hood. I have seen some pictures, and honestly, I thought I'd be more surprised. I thought there was more wizardry going on inside here than what I'm kind of seeing, but I want to see it for myself. Might be cool to try to do an actual comparison between the two. I think I lost my tool for these tri-wing screws though, so I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Now let's do some measurements. Let's do weight first. See what the comparison is. So the Gen 3, the new one is 5 ounces. And the Gen 2 is 5.4 ounces. So almost half an ounce lighter on this one with a slightly longer blade. Very impressive. Let's try to do width here. So I'm going to take just up here in the middle, I guess, as close to that pocket clip as I can. So basically 0.6, 0.598. And then here, I'm going to try to get on this kind of raise 0.56. And what was this one again? 0.59. So yes, definitely thinner, and you can see it. No measurement required. You can see how this is a thinner handle here. Let's do width. I guess we'll take kind of this middle piece right here. So 1.17, 1.15. Yeah, so it is not as wide and it is thinner, which would explain the lower weight, right? Clearly that's coming from somewhere. Handle material, both 60-61. I mentioned we've got titanium going on this one. No titanium on here. Same blade steel. So those are all of the differences that I'm aware of and that I was able to pinpoint between these two knives. I think the Gen 3 is a no-brainer upgrade. I realize that this is kind of legacy and it's got a certain look and feel to it people are used to. But I think this really is going to be kind of the way of the future with Microtech going forward. Hands down, it's a good move. I know some people didn't love the look of this. I think some of that is due to the fact that they launched with such a plain model, right? Very classic, black, stonewash. I think once we start seeing different anodization in the handle with different blade finishes, I picture like a Merlot handle with an apocalyptic blade, maybe some serrations on there. I think that'll be just absolutely killer looking with matching pocket clip, and it's going to be awesome. So, all right, guys, that is it. That is the comparison between the Gen 2 and Gen 3 Combat Troodon. Let me know down below, which one do you prefer? Do you think this is a worthy successor? to the Combat Troodon Legacy, or do you think you're going to be sticking with the Gen 2s? I'm curious to see if they continue to make the Gen 2s, and this is kind of just an offshoot, if they kind of overlap it a little bit where they do both for a while, or if they just kind of pull the Band-Aid off and just go right for the new gen. I don't know. But let me know. What do you think?